February 1st, everybody. Where did January go? Busy January. We're going to talk about a good, nice record set in January, but we're also going to talk about what interest rates are not going to do more than what they're going to do. They're not going to go down.
And John Kolb came in, of course, area to have that
go ahead
counter.
And introduce everybody that. Yeah, go ahead. Maybe he'll have the counter, but we have some facts to back it up. But
okay.
Go ahead. Yeah,
a little bit. John Kolb over here to my left. Good morning, John.
Good morning, everyone.
Nancy Warson with Real Estate One, all around Southeast Michigan.
Good morning.
Great to see you, Nancy, back here in the saddle again.
It's so good to have Nancy back in.
Yeah. And we're a live show, so I'm going to throw out the number 248-539-9797. We're going to talk, it's already heating up in here. We'll talk about inventory, what's going on in today's market. And Nancy, you went right after it and said sort of the numbers back in 2000, right when the turn of the century hit, we sold across the United States about 5 million homes. And I think last year, 2024, the worst number since 1995 was about 4 million. There's just a lack of inventory out there.
Absolutely. Lots of a lack of inventory, but that's kind of old news. We've been talking about that. The inventory, though, the good news about it, that's what's driving the market. That's what's motivating, the prices and the buyers and getting everybody excited. Because once they finally get a house, they're just over the moon.
Yeah, so Nance, here we are a month into the new year. January went by really, really quick, and there were a lot of buyers out there. We happen to have, and in this area, we happen to have a very strong January. And in Michigan in January, in this kind of climate, we haven't seen this in 3 or 4 years. And the prospects for a very strong spring and summer selling season are high, but the inventory, people are used to now the interest rates. Their interest rates are not going to come down. The Federal Reserve signaled over this past week that they're going to hold. Inflation is still the major concern, although it only ticked up a little. John Kolb and I are in agreement that they should lower the rates, but they're not going to do it because of the fear of inflation. And everybody out there, the driving factor on interest rates is inflation. If people are out there spending a lot of money and the economy is really strong, what's the incentive to lower rates? So, John, you and I go back and forth, but I'm not going to tell everybody that we had a little dollar bet on what interest rates were going to do by 12/31, and John thought that they would go under 6% and hit 5.99. They didn't. He'll tell you he thought it was close at 6 3/8, but they're right now hovering still high 6s, low 7s, right, John?
Yep, that's where they're at. I mean, I firmly still believe that they're going to come down. I mean, they're going to come down a little bit. I mean, with pressure for the Fed to bring them down, I think they'll crumble, and they'll start to see that inflation number that they keep hanging their hat on. It's not achievable. So maybe we should bump up that inflation number and kind of meet in the middle a little bit, and you'll start to see rates coming down a little bit. But that's my 2 cents, and sometimes my 2 cents is only worth 1 cent,
or it's worth $1,
or it could be worth $1.
There you go, buddy.
What happens when interest rates go down and we have lack of inventory? We might be back in a COVID kind of market again.
25 bids, no inspections, all that craziness. Oakland, Wayne, Macomb counties exhibited notable trends. Definitely the inventory situation is really what it's affecting us here in the pricing. The median home price is in double digits across those 3 counties in the last year. So that's a great appreciation. We're definitely seeing that. And the median home price reached $358,000. So the numbers are telling us, yes, lack of inventory is still driving the price, as you mentioned.
So what you're saying is everybody who's sitting on the fence waiting is losing.
Correct.
Yes.
I mean, like we've said for 18 months, 2 years, I don't even know how long it's been, but the longer you wait, the higher the prices go. If you're waiting for interest rates to come down, you're making a huge mistake. You're losing on $358,000. Let's say it's 5%. You're losing $17,000 a year and increasing that amount each and every year because the appreciation is continuing to happen. So now all of a sudden that 6.5%, 6%, 5.5% interest rate that you're waiting for doesn't mean anything because your payment's still the same.
Not
John,
to mention taxes.
If people want to pay more for something, then they should wait. Now, I don't know anybody out there that wants to pay more for anything. Because if you do the simple math, and John pointed out, if it's a $200,000 house, it goes up 5%, you're going to pay $10,000 more. If it's a $300,000, you're going to pay $15,000 more. So if you continue to wait, you're going to end up paying more. Now, waiting sometimes isn't bad. If you want to absorb that and you find a house, 2 months, 4 months, 8 months from now, and that's the house you want to be in, you don't mind paying a little bit more. Understand that, but you just have to understand the game right now is with a lack of inventory, prices are going to go up, supply and demand, and interest rates are going to stay relatively stable throughout the year. And I'd like to be wrong, John. You know, it's a classic hedge. I'd like to be wrong. I'd like to see them come down, but it looks like things are going to be stable. Stable isn't bad.
Stable isn't bad, and 6% isn't bad. I mean,
No.
I don't know what everybody's so upset about. I mean, 6% is absolutely normal.
It is. It's actually under a 50-year average, but nobody cares about what happens 50 years ago.
Nope, they only care about what
now.
happened 4 years ago, 5 years ago. Oh, I want my 2% back. Well, you're not going to get it.
I made a statement when I introduced you on my Facebook page that you were coming on the show. It said there's a small window of opportunity left here. And we talk about that always, that the winter months are typically a little bit slower, and they are. And this type of weather, I couldn't get my windows down. They're like frozen or something this morning, but definitely it's going to keep some people off the market. So this opportunity, probably another 45 days or so, because once the sun starts shining, end of March and April, like we said, that's when it sort of flips over. Now you got 5 or 10 more people making that same offer on the house that you want.
Absolutely. And frankly, I didn't see that there were, that less people in January offering.
Right.
So, a couple offers that I put together, it was a competing situation. I told my buyers, you might have more of an opportunity in January. Well, not so much. It was really the same as if it was June.
Yeah, we've experienced that. And I saw it also belonged to a group that, been lucky enough to have people around the country that we know in our industry, and all around the Midwest, we have seen that same type of activity. Couldn't believe January was as busy as it was. We expect that continue into February, and we're going to see that home prices. And if you just, you take the market's temperature and you take a look around and you see what's going on. We're not seeing prices drop. Now, there was an article in Cranes, if you read Cranes this past week, that the condo market in the city of Detroit has stalled. All right. Now, having done this for a long time, we've got collectively over 100 years of experience sitting in this room right now. The condo market usually is a softer market than the single family residence standalone. It usually is a softer market. So that's nothing new. If you build too many condos, I mean, it's oversaturated. But Detroit's had a good run. Single family houses in Detroit are still on a good run.
Absolutely.
So you just have to pick and choose your spots. But property values in our area are continuing to trend upward, and it's strong for the economy. It's a very strong economy right now.
It's a very strong economy, and I have to say too, it doesn't mean it's a blanket statement for every piece of garbage out there. You really, really, really have to show your house in the best light.
Right.
I'm stalling on a listing because the housekeeper said, I'm not quite ready yet. I want it to be extremely clean, and I want it to be, first impressions are a lot, I guess is what I'm trying to say. And, a buyer's going to be turned off if there's still, stuff all over the place.
Clutter.
John, you made a statement earlier that right now home buyers don't seem to want to fix anything up.
Yep.
Like back in the day, the old adage was, don't buy the nicest house on the block. Buy it the fixer-upper on the block and do it your way, and that'll increase the value. You might be able to buy it a little bit lower and go ahead and do the work to it or have the work done, however you want to do it. But it seems now the buyers want to go ahead and they want it in move-in conditions just like that.
They want it turnkey. I mean, that's why you got to get with your real estate professional to find out whether or not you should be updating your house or not before you try to sell it because of these new buyers. I mean, they want everything turnkey. They want to move in and not have to worry about anything. And that's great, but that's not always the real. And, if you're out there and you're seeing houses that are going to need a little bit of work, you're going to be able to get them for a good deal and get your equity out of them. And that's kind of the old adage and how we used to do everything back in the day. I sound like Harry.
I love it when John had red hair and no gray hair, and he was young John. Now he's talking about back in the day. I love that.
By the way, that group that Harry belongs to, it's called AARP. But
good.
no. Anyway, back to the housing. If you want to get into a house and still get a little bit of equity out of it, you might have to do some things to it. When I bought the house, I wanted a ranch. I wanted something with a garage with air conditioning. I bought a bungalow that was no garage and no air conditioning. But I added all those things over years, and the value is now there because of it. But
Listen,
it takes time.
You can paint that orange wall and make it a white or a gray wall. It's not a big deal. You have to look beyond certain things.
Absolutely.
Certain things you never want to look beyond. You don't want to look beyond foundation issues, sewer lines, things of that nature. But cosmetic things, you should look beyond it. Listen, if you don't want to do the work yourself, I understand that you could have somebody paint the house for you. But everything turnkey, you're going to pay more for it. That's just the way it is. You're just going to pay more.
It's a great point you guys made. I didn't even think about the fact that, 20 years ago, right, it was more like, hey, look, that's okay. It's got good bones here, and I would definitely go after it. And our parents would tell us that, find something, the location was more important. Everything else was more important. Now we have more locations that are attractive, more downtown cities, or if you're looking for a rural development or get outside of the city, that's pretty cool. It used to be $15,000 to redo a kitchen. Now, Nancy, it's $45,000 to $65,000. We're not talking big kitchens. We're just talking a regular kitchen. Just go keep it here on maybe a smaller ranch or a bungalow, mid-size home. But what used to be $15,000 truly is $30,000 or $45,000 now. And John, that makes light on the fact that, yeah, they do want to move in because they don't have as much saved up as more and more young buyers are trying to get into the market.
Yeah, that's true. And we were different kind of buyers. When I remember when I was buying my first condo, let's just say, I didn't really know how to do anything, but I learned how to do some things. And I just think that it's just the millennials are a little bit different, and yet I am in love with the millennials because they are such a big group of people. They are really keeping our market moving and a grooving. So
yeah, I like that. That's for sure. 248-539-9797. Bad news first. Well, December's in the books. That's for sure. 2024 is over. We'll talk a little bit about that, but what's going to go on here in the next few months and, of course, all throughout 2025. Keep it here. It's a Hardcore Mortgage Real Estate Business Show. Your call's next at 248-539-9797. We'll be back. Welcome back to the show. It's a Hardcore Mortgage Real Estate Business Show. February 1st, 2025, we are sponsored by Capital Mortgage Funding. 1-800-LOW-RATE, the best mortgage banker, always powered by CMG Home Loans. NMLS 1820 equal housing lender. But you can call us here live in the studio all Saturday morning up until 9 o'clock at 248-539-9797. Please don't text us. We don't have that up right now, but we'll definitely try to get that up. Paul will help us out with that if you want to get your ticket text in at the same number. And, of course, Nancy Warson joins us from Real Estate One. Nancy, of course, you're back already. Did you wrap up I think you wrapped up 2024 with us, which we're all trying to look back and say, forget about that. Probably the worst year since 1995, just barely edging out 2008. The good news is, we mentioned, it's over, and we're definitely looking forward. And, sort of the vibe here is maybe the young people don't care what the rates were, the younger generations. They don't care what happened 5 years ago, 10, 20 years ago. They want to know what's going to go moving forward here. And moving forward, we're hoping there's going to be more inventory out there. And they're starting to build up in northern Macomb. I see some Oakland County building, but these are more expensive homes. They're not starter homes.
Well, they're not starter homes, but what is the new starter home? And, I have to say this too. I love statistics, but I'm not going to go crazy. This year is going to be great. And I also agree with you on the inventory thing. I think it's going to be we're going to have a little bit more inventory because there is a crazy amount of people aging into 65 years old this year. And so there are going to be people who are going to either move to transition to a different state, transition to a smaller home. There's going to be, a lot of movement in the market. And I really think that that's going to generate some inventory.
Well, the reason for that, Nancy, as you said, is that the stability
coming from
now,
a 65-year-old.
Yeah, well, a little older, but thank you. I appreciate that. I'll go back. Is the fact that people have settled into what the market really is now. All right, we've come out of COVID. A lot of uncertainty has been answered. Just came off a presidential election, so for the next 4 years, everybody knows how that's going to end up. So there's not all that uncertainty in terms of what's going to happen. So what you have now is you have people who settle into rates. They're looking at the next few, 3, 4, 5 years, and they're saying, okay, we can probably expect interest rates to relatively be stable. We've got a little direction. And what we're finding out is that the millennials are not living in their parents' basement. They're actually real jobs, real spouses, and want real homes.
And they saved their money in the basement, and now they're actually got a down payment.
Yeah, I say that tongue in cheek. Only reason is because we sat in this show 6, 7, 8 years ago and talked about this age group, and there were predictions out there saying they were not going to buy homes, that they were going to be apartment dwellers for the rest of their lives. No, you know who's going into apartments now? The art people, my people. All right, we're moving in. We're going to sell, just like Nancy said, because we figured, you know what? Top of the market. Maybe we'll rent an apartment for a few years, or maybe we'll be there forever, and we'll get top dollar for our house, or maybe we'll sit in an apartment for a year or two and then look for a home. But that's what's going to end up happening, and it's happening now. I see it all the time, and people are buying, and younger people are moving into those homes.
Absolutely. I think that it is going to be a fantastic 2025 and going forward. So, more like to John's point, if you don't buy now, you're missing out. It's going to cost you more. It's always better to buy now than buy later. And I mean, there's situations that happen, but, and your timing is the right timing, but at the same time, it's going to be a little bit less expensive, and your taxes are going to be capped the day that you buy.
Every single person has a different situation, right? So it's not, our blanket statements aren't for everybody. So if you have an individual situation that causes you to have to wait for one reason or another, that's okay. The general statement is that if you wait, the longer you wait, you're going to miss out, because you can always come back and refinance. You can always come back and get the rate from 6.5% down to 5.5%, down to 5, down to 4.5, wherever the rates may bottom out at. They're not going to go to 2 and 3. All right. The Harry's favorite saying, every meeting that we've ever had, they're not going to go back to 2 or 3, over and over and over again. Guys, you got to listen to that, unfortunately.
Thanks, John. Thanks for the compliment.
Hey, well, back-ass.
Backhanded compliment.
Right. So, anyways.
You have to have common sense about the whole thing. You have to do things that are applicable to your individual situation. Whatever the payment that you want to achieve and you want to stick to it, let's stick to it. Whatever budget you have within reason, maybe you have to go a little bit over 5-10% over. If it's in your price range, listen, this is not a pair of pants. You don't grow into it. All right, you got to stick with what your budget is and have a plan and stay with it. Now, if you know that you're going to get promoted in a few years, or you know that you're going to have an increase in income, then maybe you plan for that too. But most people need to be put on a plan, and if you have a direction, then stay in that direction.
And work with your team, right? Like we always say, work with your team. Get with Nancy, figure out what the prices are out there. Get with John, Harry, Harvey, Becky, Lisa, everybody at Capital Mortgage Funding. Get with us to find out what your payment's going to be.
Yeah.
So figure out what your budget could be, and figure out what you're going to be able to afford. So if you don't, you're not going to make this decision on your own. You got to make this decision with people who know what they're doing and are out looking out for you.
Yeah.
And you got, like we always say, work with your team.
Nancy, I'm happy to report that more people are actually getting pre-approved before they call you.
Yes, they are.
Okay, because the biggest detriment to a realtor is what?
Not being able to afford what you're showing them, and not, your all your work is for nothing.
And you're finding out at the last minute.
Yeah.
Right? You go down 3, 4, 5 weeks of a buying process. You get some kind of crazy letter from a lender that Harvey's favorite subject, just printing off approval letters without checking. You do your work, and you find out 3, 4 weeks into it that they don't have the money.
Right. And, the reputation of the lender is so, so important, because I know maybe who you're talking about. And it's a red flag. You really want to know that your buyer is able to afford exactly what you're showing them.
You're saying that your offer might not be accepted because of the lender that you've chosen.
Well, and that's another good point, because the sellers aren't, they don't have their heads in the sand. They know exactly what's going on too, and they're taking a recommendation from their agent.
Listing agent.
So being totally objective and trying to be a consumer advocacy program like we are, what all good lenders should do is they should call the realtor partner in the transaction and say, listen, I've worked with these clients for X amount of weeks or months or years. I know them. I can't tell you their financial situation, but I can tell you that this will not be a problem transaction, and that if they come in and see one of your houses, that they've already been pre-approved. Not pre-qualified, pre-approved. We have tax returns. We have check stubs. We have all... The most important thing in the transaction, where's the money coming from? We verified all the funds. So you pick up the phone. We do it all the time. We call people. We call every realtor Nancy, and say, this is our client. We've checked them out. You should feel very secure with the offer if they come and look at that property.
Yep.
Yeah. I keep running into a lot of young buyers. Again, it might be their first or second home out there, and they are looking to go minimal down. And these minimal down programs require very good credit. So very good credits, typically like 680 and above, but you could be 660 and above and still get a conventional mortgage. But 3% down conventional makes things very affordable. Again, these programs weren't around when we all first started. So it's awesome. You got the VA program, of course, 0 down. You've got USDA, rural development loans. These are anyone listening in the outside counties, but they still have Oakland, Wayne, Macomb County can still buy a house 0 down that way. 3% down on a $300,000 house, $9,000 down payment. Now you've got your closing cost and your escrow account, your homeowners. You're talking about $17,000 to $20,000 to get into really your family's home. So I don't think the numbers are outrageous. I think when some of the people out there, they break it all down and they see what they're truly looking at. And John, we're starting to get some sellers concessions still. Again, the small window of opportunity, maybe on the $300,000 to $350,000 homes, they're definitely out there.
I agree. I mean, there's more and more sellers starting to work, more and more listing agents telling their sellers, hey, look, you got to work with these buyers to make it work. And you know what? If you get the right listing agent and you get the right seller who understands what's going on, the net out of pocket to the seller is 0. I mean, they're not losing any money by giving seller concessions, right? Instead of buying the house for $300, sell it to them for $309, give them $9,000 back. You still net $300.
And give it in the form of seller's concessions so they can pay the closing costs and things of that nature. That's just the way to do it. And that we're seeing that more and more. The seller's concessions is going to pay the closing costs.
Yeah, nobody wants to get into a MISTA type program if they don't have to. MISTA is a great program, don't get me wrong. But if you don't have that lingering silent second mortgage behind your first mortgage that you have to pay back at some point through a refinance or the sale of your home, why not do it with the seller concession instead, so that you can use the money and you don't have to worry about that lingering silent second behind.
Let's talk about the quality of these homes, Nancy. I mean, even the weather today, I could not get the window open at the Starbucks drive-through, so it's icing up here. So
Do you not have a garage?
we do have a 2-car garage with kayaks and old tables, and too much in there for sure. But definitely, I think the opportunity there to get in with little money down is the key nowadays. And the homes, and the reason why is a lot of these homes haven't been maintained the way they need to be maintained. So the families are saving a little bit additional money for the good stuff in there, the HVAC, the heating, the furnace in there, and a hot water heater. These are important things. Also, there's plumbing issues, and we've talked about the sewer scopes. It goes on and on here in Michigan. It's a little bit different here than most states. On and on and on about the things that are just getting old and they're going to wear and tear, and you really need some additional money. So we'd like the idea. Look, as a seller, you can get top dollar for your house, but put in that seller's concession. Now the buyers have that opportunity to really upgrade the house and make sure that it's structurally sound. It's got all those up-to-dates on it. And again, if you want to paint and carpet and all that, that's after you put the new roof on.
Well, there's no doubt. I mean, your house is going to be a little bit more attractive if your windows are new, if your roof is new, if the buyer doesn't have to spend the unfun money, is
Right.
what I like to call it.
Yeah, that's not fun.
Kitchens, bathrooms, they're more fun.
Yeah.
But if the buyer doesn't have to spend the unfun money, their house is going to sell faster. It's going to maybe sell for a little bit more. And, to the seller concession point, whatever you have to do to move the money around to make it work for you is the best way to do it, because I'm telling you, home ownership is a lot cheaper than renting. And the rent keeps going up and your equity is going up at the same time. So do all that you can, regardless of whether it's a seller concession or whatever it is, a less down payment to get into that house.
I just had a buyer who was pretty much at his wit's end. I think we're coming up on a commercial. We'll finish this after the commercial.
Okay, fair enough, John. We'll definitely talk about probably some rents and what rents are looking like out there compared to home ownership. We got a lot to share with you. Keep it here on 97.1 The Ticket. It's 8:27 in the morning on the Hardcore Mortgage Real Estate Business Show. We'll take your calls at 248-539-9797. We'll be right back. All righty, welcome back to the Hardcore Mortgage Real Estate Business Show, 8:30. If you're just joining us, we take your calls live in the studio. It's all about mortgages and real estate and fun stuff. Anything else you want to throw in, 248-539-9797. In our 25th year of giving great information, and the best part, you can call us all week long at Capital Mortgage Funding, all weekend long at 1-800-LOW-RATE, the best mortgage banker. I'm Harvey Freed. He's Harry Glanz, John Kolb, Nancy Warson, Real Estate One joins us. It makes it really fun to have people that have been buying and selling, are so active in the community, and really with what's going on out there. John, you're looking at me. John, Mr. Skier out there, even things out west, I'm sure are picking up, and more families are looking at vacation homes. Even down south, I think it was slow for a while there, but more and more people are going to start considering that. We do loans in all 50 states, John.
We do. John travels a lot. He skis a lot. I'm a little nervous about him. He's getting up there in age, so I'm worried about if he's still skiing the Black Diamonds, or is he on the Bunny Hills now?
He's back to the blue squares. No
blues?
more
Okay,
Black
good.
Diamond.
All
I think
right,
the blue
good.
square tangle.
I'm worried about him. He's going gray on me.
Yeah, I'm getting older. We did some stuff out in Breckenridge this past weekend that I don't think I'll do again. That was I told my buddy, I said, you know what? That's the last time I'm doing that, because I'm not climbing to 13,000 feet and jumping off that cornice anymore. But we did it once, and it was great, and I made it. So
there you go. Well, good for you.
But I wanted to go back to what we had started to talk about. I had a buyer who was getting a little frustrated with prices. The prices were up, taxes are up. He was a little upset with what the monthly payment. So he had told us that he was going to go back to renting. Well, lo and behold, when he went back to his apartment that he's renting from, they said, okay, here's the price. He said, okay, well, I want to go month to month because I might want to buy something in the summer. They said, okay, here's your price month to month then. And so all of a sudden now he's back in the market looking at homes, because the rental prices, one, either extending for a year was going up, and like Nancy had pointed out, and two, if he wanted to go month to month, it was like 25% more. And it was ridiculous. So he's now back in the market looking, found something over the last couple of days. So we're waiting on the inspection. But, that's the point, is that rents are up. And why throw money into your landlord's pocket when you could be throwing it into your own equity and gaining your own investment?
There are so many programs out there that you can qualify. Like Harvey said, we illustrated it. We could point it out to everybody, but also, and real stories and the experiences that you go through with clients are the best teachers. And there are programs where if people cannot, if younger buyers cannot afford it on their own, you can go ahead, and the word is not co-signer. You're a co-borrower. You're a non-owner occupying co-borrower with that person who's going to live in the property. Now, most financial advisors will say, never co-sign, never co-borrow, never do anything for your kids. Let your kids do it on their own. But like we've talked about, there are programs that allow a parent or a relative to go ahead and be a co-borrower on a loan. And then at a given point in time in the future, we can go ahead and take you off the loan through a refinance transaction. It has to be done that way, because when two people or three parties sign a note, they're equally obligated. Nobody's responsible for half the payment. The payment has to be made in full. That's a lot of mortgage jargon nerd talk here, but the bottom line is when you co-sign or co-obligate yourself to a note, you are 100% responsible for that note. It's not a 50-50 deal. So when we refinance and take you off, then you are totally removed from the promissory note through the new refinance. John Kolb.
Harry, tell them about a divorce situation, like the situation that we've had over the last couple of weeks. How does a divorce situation affect somebody who's on a mortgage, and are they removed from the obligation through a divorce?
Okay, so the answer to the question is legally responsible for payment on the note. They're still responsible for the note. Now, when you go ahead, and I'm not a divorce lawyer or a lawyer of any kind, I don't play one on the radio, but when the judge signs the judgment, if one of the parties is staying in the house and the obligation of the mortgage payment goes to that party, all it does is alleviate through the divorce the obligation to make the payment, but the bank didn't sign off on that. Okay, so the bank didn't sign off on that. Right. A judge just said, "Hey, party A, you're staying in the house. You're going to make the whole payment, principal, interest, taxes, and insurance." But the bank has two people on the note, so the bank doesn't care who pays it. It just needs to be paid in full, 100%. The however is when you go ahead and you buy another property, party B, we as a lender don't have to qualify
Right.
that obligation onto the next property.
That divorce, I like that.
As long as the divorce is final and
Yep.
signed by all parties and the judge.
Correct.
And the loan, the old note is current. If
Right.
if it
Current.
becomes
Can't be
past
delinquent.
due, then all parties are responsible
That's
for
all
it.
I wanted to add on to, gentlemen. That's a great point, is the debt-to-income ratio is not affected by your current home through the divorce. The divorce
Correct.
judgment would tell you who's responsible for that. However, if that person doesn't make the payment, now it's going to affect your credit score.
Correct.
And all of a sudden there's lates on there. You're not going to be able to get a
So
mortgage.
again, let me reiterate
that's a key
this.
point.
The bank doesn't care who makes the payment as long as the payment is made.
That's the important part,
100%.
right.
And we don't care about the old payment as long as that payment's being made.
Right.
So that the new purchase can be, the old debt can
They're
be removed.
absolved of the obligation for qualification purposes.
All right, you know what? We got Becky calling in. Hey, good Becky. Becky, you're live on 97.1 The Ticket. Where are you, Becky?
I just got back. I'm good. I wasn't going to make it in time for the show, but I am in Michigan.
Oh,
Yeah,
she's back.
well,
All right.
there you
This
go.
girl's been
Welcome
everywhere.
back.
Yeah, she's been everywhere, including Boyne Mountain. We'll have to hear about that trip next week.
Yeah. Oh my God, yeah, such a good time. But it's amazing to be around. Obviously we're a national lender, right? We talk about the things that go on in Michigan particularly, but when we get those opportunities to travel, you see kind of what the real estate market's doing. People ask questions, right? They want to know what our market's like. I ask what their market's like. And, I just had some people even from Florida, and, property values are down in Florida, right? Insurance costs is a big deal. But, Michigan is where it's at. Like, people are coming here to stay, like from anywhere from California to Florida to Tennessee. People are crawling up to our little mitten, even though it's cold, because we are a great place to be. It's affordable. You can be a first-time buyer and snatch up some properties, and you can get lakefront properties. And I'm kind of almost like, we used to be a little kept secret, but we're not anymore. Like, people are coming from all over to be a part of Michigan, which is cool. But like when we talk about week in, week out, if you can throw your hat in the ring and own some real estate, you need to have those conversations sooner than later, for sure.
That's a great point. Harry mentioned actually about co-signers and stuff, and that's just the thing is I knew a co-signer who actually co-signed for a sister-in-law, and it seemed a little wishy-washy about 3-4 years ago. Now they're sitting on a bundle of equity, and all of a sudden that co-signer is really happy, went ahead and did it again. It wasn't directly a child. It was his sister-in-law. He co-signs. Now that condominium's worth probably $50,000 or $60,000 more, and that's just it. You're still on the hook for it, but one day when that property is sold or whatever the situation is, there's some equity and you're going to walk away feeling pretty good about it.
Yeah, I mean, I want to go back to what Becky just said about how everyone's starting to move to different areas out west with what's happened, the devastation in California. More and more people are starting to move to Texas, Nevada, Arizona.
Right?
I have family in Arizona, and they're tuned into the real estate market there. And the real estate market there is saying that the housing prices are going to continue to go up in double-digit appreciation because of everyone starting to move over. And there's a lot of room to expand in Arizona.
Well, if you take a look at the math, John, look at the equation, how many people lost their homes. And then you take a look at how long it's going to take to rebuild those homes in that area. You're talking years.
Oh, yeah.
So people are going to either wait it out, or they're going to move, or they're going to rent, because it's going to take years to reconstruct what was the devastation of that. And, our hearts go out to those people, and it's just a crazy situation out there that is going to take years and years to rebuild.
And the unfortunate thing is they're not going to focus on homes right away. They're going to focus on the infrastructure of the city because of what's up and coming, right? They've got the World Cup. They've got the Olympics. I think they have a Super Bowl at some point. So they're going to worry about the infrastructure there, making sure that they get everything so that they can still promote their city and have all those events there. And that's going to take away from the homes getting done as quickly as they should.
Yeah, Becky, let's talk about all the real estate transactions. You got a lot of realtor partners down there. We have Nancy in here. We were busy in January. I mean, it's nice to see. Tell me what's going on down in your area or with all your real estate partners.
It's busy. It is really busy. The activity, even just from Friday, I mean, the amount of purchase agreements that came through, which is a beautiful thing. And, typically this is that seasonal, like where you like that typical, like air quote, seasonal slowdown But there really hasn't been in the last 5 years, and that's continuing. We're continuing to see that trend that, real estate is 365. It's like you have like a moment during the holidays where people will take a breath. That's fine. You kind of see those numbers, whether in your first or last quarter. But my first and last quarters tend to be better ones because I'm out here grinding and hustling with all the people that are grinding and hustling, right? If your boots are on the ground and you're touching as many people as you can, having these conversations and finding out what their goals are, those numbers are going to naturally come to you when you're on the real estate side or mortgage side, whatever you're doing, and you're not going to be slow. And the reality is that, I have quite a few friends that real estate, like home ownership, isn't in their cards right in this moment. Okay, so now we're talking about the rental market for a second, okay? They are getting hit with their rent is going up from 15 to 2,500. One of them just got hit with their new lease, and they went up $1,000 because the insurance costs of the house that they're renting went up so much that they pushed that on my friends that were renting. And because of that, now they're looking for another rental, and I had them hooked up because of the job situation. They can't buy right now, but the rental market is extremely competitive as well, and they actually can discriminate just a little bit because they don't have to operate by the same rules that we do on the mortgage side. It is difficult to find a rental. You are better off if you are so inclined to really have these conversations about purchasing your own home, because on the flip side, the rental market is even more competitive than buying a house right now. And that's the facts, because I see it on both sides because I'm helping a couple people with rentals.
Good.
That's a great point. 248-539-9797 in our last 20 minutes or so here on the Hardcore Mortgage Real Estate Business Show. We'll definitely take your calls. Becky, stay on the line with us. We got more to share with you. Keep it here. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the show, 8:45, and the sun is shining here in Metro Detroit. If you'd like to give us a call, 248-539-9797. It's the Hardcore Mortgage Real Estate Business Show. Always answering your calls about mortgages and real estate. Nancy Warson joins us, of course, from Real Estate One. And we've been talking buying and selling and all that's going on. Becky Alley's still joining us on the line, so Becky will give us a little bit more here. Becky, let's dive into a little bit of debt consolidation because we got a lot going on, too. And thank goodness for a lot of appreciation out there as the economy's fallen off and inflation's really taken a bite on some people. Definitely the opportunities there to get consolidated. So you have equity in your home, whether you want to do a home equity line of credit and release some of that equity or do a cash out refinance. Debt consolidation loans, they're still picking up because of all this equity in the home. So definitely give us a call if you want to discuss that. Becky, people can cram their numbers together. It's something that we do all the time. They might end up getting a higher interest rate than they currently have. But a lot of times, Beck, we've seen this. They can drop 5 or 10 years off their mortgage and sometimes keep the payment really close to what they have.
Yeah, actually, I mean, to be honest with you, I'm glad you brought it up. I have quite a few refinances happening right now, and we get calls all the time. We can do a home equity line of credit or standalone second. We can do those things, and we are very highly trained to look at those scenarios. John's very good at it as well, right? He's a numbers person. You're a numbers person. We do numbers, right? So when someone's reaching out to us, we're asking, are you trying to renovate your home? Are you trying to do some debt consolidation? Because you guys were even talking about a co-signer, right? People don't think twice about co-signing for someone, but it affects their overall debt load and what they can afford to buy a house. And those things really matter when you're trying to do certain things, whether you're trying to buy in the future or not. So, even though the rates have come down a little bit. So even like right now, I'm doing a cash out refinance for someone. We're saving them $500 a month, even though the rate's going up I think it's about 0.5%. It's not that dramatic, but from all the other debt that we're paying off, we're now saving $500 a month. So apples to apples, it's a no-brainer for them to do a cash-out refinance. I have someone else that's at a 2%, and it's a no-brainer for us to take that much higher rate on a home equity line of credit because of what they're going to utilize it for. It's all circumstantial. Nothing's cookie-cutter, but you have to have a high-level conversation with a high-level loan officer. You can't just be like clicking buttons like Harvey hates, where you're just getting in line with a stranger that just wants you to do a certain transaction that's going to benefit them. We want to set you up with something that's going to benefit you and what you're doing and what's going to help you even right now and then 5 years from now.
Everybody out there, everybody talks about their terms that are thrown around in the industry, financial services industry, banking, mortgages, everything. They talk about good debt, bad debt. There's no such thing as good debt. There's such a thing called necessary debt or bad debt. Necessary debt, your mortgage, maybe your car payments, but bad debt, certainly never revolving credit card debt, all right? Necessary debt, student loans, right? A cash-out refinance will get you out of the bad debt, provided that you don't run up those credit cards again. So when people say, well, a rate, 7.5%, it's better than the 22 to 26 than you're paying on it, provided that you tear up the credit cards. And like Becky said, everybody, rate is irrelevant if you're dropping your payment $500, $600, $700 a month. That's freeing up the cash flow. So at that point in time, if you want to add additional money to your necessary debt, your mortgage, your car payments to pay those down, student loans, you can do that. Or you have some discretionary income that you don't need to go ahead and run up your credit cards. You could pay cash for those things. So there's all kinds of ways, and we don't advocate using your house as a piggy bank. The however is there's bad debt and there's necessary debt, and we can help you go ahead and filter out which is which and how we could save you $500 to $1,000 a month.
Right. And if you are going to jump into a home equity line of credit, you really have to make sure that you have an end game as well, because that home equity line of credit is going to adjust every month when it wants to based upon what Prime is doing. So just make sure you understand, which I know Becky, Harvey, myself, Harry, we all talk about it. That is a loan to get into if you have a plan to get it paid off in 5 years. If you don't, you might want to look at doing a new first mortgage and or a standalone second mortgage that it has a fixed payment, fixed rate, so that you aren't put into a position where you might get hurt down the road, because that is important. We don't want to put you into a position that's saving you $500 a month right now, But in 6 months, all of a sudden, you're paying more. So we have to make sure that you're put into a loan that is best suited for you. And like Becky said, everything is circumstantial, and individuals have different needs and wants.
Becky, determining that objective is so key. You got to bring it out of people. Tell me a little more about that.
Yes, I mean, it's just the conversations, asking the questions and hearing what someone's not saying, right? I need to, renovate and, or I also want to pay off some debt, right? There's like those high-level questions that you're going to ask, like, help me understand what you're trying to do. Where are we going? What do you want to do? And then immediately my brain, your guys' brain, we go and we pull it apart. And I'm with John, too. Like, we come from, like, the 2008, 9, 10 housing crisis, right? We all have those, like, it's a little bit of our, like, own trauma where we avoid anything that's adjustable. That is something that I also avoid for all my clients as well, if I can. But it is circumstantial and it's different. But if I can put someone in something that's fixed, that's what we're going to do because we want that consistency. We want to make sure that someone has something that they know they can pay off. What is the game plan? Like I said, we're not just looking at our nose. We're looking 5 years down the road. And, yes, we've been in an appreciating market for quite some time, and we're going to continue to be in an appreciating market. But same when you're taking out that second mortgage, I'm having those conversations with someone of how are we going to pay this off? Are you planning on waiting to refinance and then combining into one mortgage? And now that's a totally different conversation that I'm having with you. Do you have the money in your assets that you just don't want to dip into because once you pull that money out of your stocks, you lose that, those investments, right? Because it's not going to appreciate there. Like, what are we trying to do with our money? And that's what we're trying to do. Like when we're pre-qualifying someone, whether it's your first house, your second house, or we're fixing and we're utilizing equity in your existing house, we want to know where you're going. How are we going to get you there? And how are we going to get you out of any existing debt that might be harmful for you later? Because like Harry said, there's really no such thing as good debt or like it's better debt, right? How are you going to make that money work from you? And home ownership is a tangible asset that you can work for you. You can write that interest off on your tax return still. I'm not a CPA, but it's better than these revolving credit cards that you're paying 30% on. Think twice about when you're taking out a 0% credit card and you own a home. Let's have a different conversation and see how we can make that money work for you.
Let's put a little caveat in there. I'm sorry, let me jump in just a little bit here, Harry, was just don't use your home as a piggy bank. We always use that theme.
Yes.
However, you have to take a look at the numbers. And one of the things is that the non-conforming car loans that a lot of our family members or people in this area have. They had a little bit banged up credit. They've got a car loan that's at, double digits. Take a look at that FHA cash out refi because your credit score is a little low and put yourself in a better overall situation.
But here's the situation. We have to throw some caution here into this. Okay. And Nancy, and Nancy, I want to bring this to you. In real estate, there are always people looking to take advantage of other people. And in debt consolidation or in mortgages, there's always people that are looking to take advantage of people that are in desperate situations. So when you, as a real estate person who's been doing this a long time, there's no trickier way or better way. I just don't want to see people get scammed. And I'm a big believer that when people get mass mail, they get mass text, they get mass email, these letters that come out and we bring them into the show. I mean, Nancy, what do you tell your people when somebody's always going to call you and say, well, I saw this on the internet or I saw that? Or what do you tell people when, to use your experience?
I often will, set the expectation. Yes, you are going to be getting some more mail. However, not all mail is good mail. And just make sure that you read it. And if you have any question whatsoever, please call me and I will tell you whether or not it is, legitimate or not. You got your title. You got a piece of paper at the closing table. You are not going to have to pay for your title again.
We had that call, Nancy. And to your point, exactly. We use that verbatim. If you get anything crazy in the mail, call me, right? And you say it to your clients. I had a woman call me the other day. John forwarded me the message. This woman called and said that she got notified by the county that her property is going to be taken away. John called me up. I called the woman immediately, and I told her, I said, Sharon, not going to happen. Go ahead, make the phone call. I gave her our phone number. I said, if anybody has a problem with you, give them my number. And that's what we say. Call us, and we'll make sure. We'll go ahead and weed out the reality versus I mean, listen.
I tell
the
people all the
dissemination
time.
of real versus inaccurate versus accurate information.
I forwarded on that message here. Yeah, then the crazy thing was, someone really scared, and that's just the thing. If you're not, it's
because there's all these scammers out there,
right?
And I mean, I'll even get the phone calls myself that this message is intended for Nancy, and it is like, okay, right, but you let them go on, and sometimes you play with them, sometimes you don't, whatever. But I always tell my people, if you have any hesitation or any thought, just call me. Nothing's dumb.
Yeah, or even call the people. I think actually DT actually put out a letter warning people about the scams. I think I just opened a piece of mail that said that. Yeah, just recently. Again, you're hearing these calls and they're making up who they are.
Listen,
we're not
going
to call you.
Before we leave the air, I have to go ahead, and I can't say this more strenuously. If you're getting crazy stuff in the mail and people are asking you to send them money, don't do it.
No.
Give us a call. Even other lenders that want money up front. All right, you better check that. What are you getting for sending somebody some money? We don't take money up front. Anybody who's asking you for money to do a credit check, anybody who's asking you for money to maybe credit repair, anybody who's asking you for money to go ahead and say, hey, will you take a look at things for me? No. These are all complimentary services that people like Nancy, John, Harvey, Becky, Harry, everybody at Capital Mortgage Funding, we do not take upfront money, period. End of discussion.
All right, that's it. Nancy Warson, thank you very much for coming back again. We'll see you probably this spring, talking all about what's going on here in Southeast Michigan. For John Kolb, Harry Glanz, I'm Harvey Freed. Call Capital Mortgage all weekend long at 1-800-LOW-RATE, the best mortgage banker.
Becky, thanks for calling in. Appreciate you and everybody listen. We'll see you next week. We're here. Any questions at all about your financial status, give us a call. We're willing to help you out. It will not cost you a penny.